There's a financial risk most people near age 58 never see coming. It has nothing to do with the stock market, nothing to do with interest rates or inflation, and has everything to do with time. Because there's a moment in life, and most people never realize they've crossed it, where continuing to work quietly becomes one of the biggest decisions you could ever make. Not because you're risking money, but because you're risking one of the resources you can never replace. And for the majority of people I've worked with, that moment happens right around 58. If you don't understand how quickly your health, your energy, your quality of life change, you could accidentally sacrifice the best decade of retirement you've planned for. Before we get into this, my name is Jonathan Bednar, certified financial planner and owner of Paradigm Wealth Partners here in Knoxville, Tennessee, where we help people in their 50s and 60s retire with confidence, without guessing, gambling, and without giving up the best years in their life. I've seen this decision done right, and I've seen this decision what happens when people wait too long. This is why it matters. Why age 58 is a turning point. Around 58, several life curvatures happen. Things start coming together, and this is what no one talks about. First, your health. Mobility starts to decline, recovery starts to slow, your strength fades, and even mental sharpness starts to lack. Second, you start to lose energy. Most people still feel pretty good at 58, but by 62, 65, and even 70, it's an entirely different story. Third, money. By your late 50s, most of the compounding magic is already behind you. The heavy lifting is done. And finally, time, what I believe is one of your biggest assets. And at 58, you have far fewer fully capable years left than you think. This is the convergence point where money stabilizes, but time begins to accelerate faster and faster away from you. The golden era of time, of retirement that you don't want to miss is from 58 to 68. And research consistently shows that this age represents the time, the decade where you have the most freedom, you still have great mobility, you still have great energy, and overall your health is largely intact. But after 70, you physically decline, and that accelerates sharply. That means that most people never really calculate. They don't think about it. Working through this window means that you're working through some of the best years in retirement you'll ever have. The hidden trade-off happens at 58. Up to 58, your trading time for money usually makes sense. You're working, you're raising families. To do the things you want to do, you need money. And so in order to provide for that money, provide for your family, do the things you want to do, you got to work, you got to earn a living. After 58, I see where this trend usually flips. You may already have a nice nest egg, but every year you work from here, you might grow your portfolio, I don't know, 4, 5, 8% maybe. But the same year cost you 6, 12% of your life, your remaining high energy, healthy years that you have, and the cost of that compounding far faster than your money ever will. And this trade-off is the trade-off almost no one sees. The fear that keeps people working. If I stop working, I'll be eating into my savings. This is people's biggest fear. And it's an emotional fear. It's one that doesn't always make sense. It may or may not make sense mathematically, but your savings were built for this exact phase of life. Your kids are grown, you're mortgage free, life is, I don't want to say easy, but it's certainly less complex. And these are the years that you've built and you save for to enjoy this thing we call retirement. So many people feel like they're cannibalizing their portfolio. They're spending their money. They're not sure, if their money's enough to last. And what I like to say here is you're not cannibalizing up your portfolio. You're not spending down your portfolio. You're deploying the tool you spent the last 30 and 40 years building. And people aren't thinking about it that way. The danger isn't spending your money. The danger is waiting too long to spend your time. There's another thing people don't often realize about time. Again, one of your biggest assets. These are important distinctions to make, and another thing people don't fully consider. Time on paper is how long you might live. Usable time is how long your body cooperates. High quality time is the time that you have the most energy, mobility, and freedom. Those times, those aspects of time are not the same thing. They're vastly different. And there are things that are easy at 58 become dramatically harder at 68. Long hikes, international travel, sightseeing, playing on the floor with grandkids is harder and harder. It's harder and harder to walk 18 holes of golf. It's harder to drive long distances. Learning new skills might be more difficult. You can delay your retirement. Your body will not delay aging. It's important to know that as you're thinking about this and as you're trying to decide when you should retire. Retirement is a resource balance. It isn't about hitting a number. It's not about managing for resources. It is about managing for resources. Your time, it's about managing your health. It's about managing your energy and your money. And money is the only one you can replenish. Earlier in life, you trade time, health, and energy to build the money. Later in life, you must use that money to reclaim your time. Once you have enough, the extra savings provide diminish those returns. Why market conditions don't matter as much as you would think. People delay because they seem to think things like the market feels too shaky, rates are too high, inflation worries me, it's an election year, World War III might happen. There's all these reasons not to retire because you're concerned about market conditions. But those conditions never disappear. We're constantly battling the wall of worry. Just this year, we've had tariffs, we've had trade war, we have World War III threat. Every couple years there's a presidential election. These conditions often cycle. Some of the same ones cycle through, and then we also have new ones come through year to year. Markets adapt. Companies continue to grow their earnings, their share price. They continue to do well. And these guardrails continue to exist. How can we make the best decision for you in your retirement objectives? And you don't retire because these conditions are perfect. No conditions are ever going to be perfect. You retire because your plan works under imperfect conditions. It says that, since we have done A, B, and C, you can now do X, Y, and Z. And it's important to know and understand that the work you've put into building your plan, all the knobs you've twisted and levers you've pulled are come together so that you actually can have a plan to live confidently with clarity to and through retirement without having to work until your 90s. Most people don't delay the retirement for financial reasons. They actually delay for psychological ones. A lot of our identity is tied up in our careers. We're police officers, we're teachers, we're attorneys, we're salespeople, we're IT people, we're doctors, we're nurses. So, they wonder, who am I without my job? What will I do with my days? Will I have any structure? Will I feel irrelevant? After decades of this routine, the routine becomes our identity. Those fears aren't permanent, but they are solvable with planning, and they're very real. I see this happen for quite a bit with people. They're not sure what their life looks like because they're so tied into who their what their identity is. And what we try to teach people is your identity isn't necessarily your career. Your identity is being a father to your kids, being a grandparent to your grandkids. Who you are as your core values. That's how you help identify and solve your identity crisis as you move into retirement. So the truth from real retirees, after working with hundreds of retirees, one pattern is crystal clear. People do not regret retiring too early. Many regret retiring too late. The most common phrase I hear is, I wish I had more healthy years. The regret only becomes visible after it's too late to fix. So how do you know if 58 is your moment? If you're ready to take the steps, you understand your spending, you have a withdrawal strategy, your income sources are mapped, your portfolio stress tested, you thought about how you'll spend your time and what you'll do for fun, maybe new hobbies, you've got a plan for healthcare, and you've replaced routine with purpose, the things that you really deeply seated value, the things that are most important to you. If you have those pieces, the risk isn't retiring, the risk is waiting. Here's the truth most people will never hear. Money can wait, your health can't. The window doesn't last forever, and if you're near 58, the most dangerous financial risk isn't in the market. It's running out of time you're healthy enough to enjoy. If you want clarity and confidence around whether it's your moment, click the link in the description, schedule some time with us. Let's help you figure out if now is the time you can reclaim what matters most and retire with the confidence and clarity you've always wanted. Thanks for listening. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do so. Be confident in your retirement. Have a wonderful day.